before, congressional action will not be necessary. It's already time to set an approach. And as time goes by, I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries will, like in the past, substantially replace the modern day system of income tax, taking a great financial burden off the people that are right? Moving forward, factories, jobs, investment, trillions and jobs, investment, and trillions of dollars will continue pouring into the United States of America because we finally have a president who puts America first, to put America first. For decades before I came along, we had the exact opposite. From trade to healthcare, from energy to immigration, everything was stolen and rigged in order to drain the wealth out of the productive, hardworking people who make our country great, who make our country run. Under Biden and his corrupt partners in Congress and beyond, it reached a breaking point with the Green New scam, open borders for everyone. They poured in by the millions and millions from prisons, from mental institutions. There were murderers, 11,888 murders. They came into our country. You allowed that to happen. And record-setting inflation that cost the typical family $34,000 in just a speck of time. Now, the same people in this chamber who voted for those disasters suddenly use the word affordability, a word they just used it. Somebody gave it to them, knowing full well that they caused and created the increased prices that all of our citizens had to endure. You caused that problem. You caused that problem. They knew their statements were a lie. They knew it. They knew their statements were a dirty, rotten lie. Their policies created the high prices. Our policies are rapidly ending them. We are doing really well. Those prices are plummeting downward. The price of eggs is down 60%. Madam Secretary, thank you. The cost of chicken, butter, fruit, hotels, automobiles, rent is lower today than when I took office by a lot. And even beef, which was very high, is starting to come down significantly. Just hold on a little while. We're getting it down. And soon you will see numbers that few people would think were possible to achieve just a short time ago. Nobody can believe when they see the kind of numbers, and especially energy, when they see energy going down to numbers like that, they cannot believe it. It's like another big tax cut. I'm also confronting one of the biggest ripoffs of our times, the crushing costs of health care caused by you. Since the passage of the Unaffordable Care Act, sometimes referred to as Obamacare, big insurance companies have gotten rich. It was meant for the insurance companies, not for the people. With our government giving them hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars a year as their stock prices soared 1,000, 1,200, 1,400, and even 1,700%, like nothing else. That's why I introduced the great health care plan. I want to stop all payments to big insurance companies and instead give that money directly to the people so they can buy their own health care, which will be better health care at a much lower cost. In addition, my plan requires maximum price transparency. That's a big deal. Sounds so simple, so big. And I did that in my first term, and the Democrats immediately terminated it with full knowledge that they were doing a very bad thing for the people. Costs were going to go way up, and that's what happened. And now I'm bringing them way down on health care and everything else. I'm also ending the wildly inflated cost of prescription drugs like has never happened before. Other presidents tried to do it, but they never could. They tried. Most didn't try, actually. But they tried. They said they tried. They couldn't do it. They didn't even come close. They were all talk and no action, but I got it done. Under my just enacted most favored nation agreements, Americans who have for decades paid by far the highest prices of any nation anywhere in the world for prescription drugs will now pay the lowest price anywhere in the world for drugs, anywhere, the lowest price. So in my first year of the second term, should be my third term, but strange things happen. I took prescription drugs, a very big part of healthcare, from the highest price in the entire world to the lowest. That's a big achievement. The result is price differences of 300, 400, 500, 600% and more, all available right now at a new website called TrumpRx.gov. And I didn't name that one either, by the way. And here tonight is the very first customer ever to get that big discount, and it is big, Catherine Rayner. For 5 years, she and her husband have struggled with infertility, and they turned to IVF. One drug has been costing Catherine $4,000 to purchase. But a few weeks ago, she logged onto the Trump RX website and got that same drug that cost $4,000, got it for under $500, a reduction of much more, actually, than $3,500. Catherine, we are all praying for you, and you're going to be a great mom. So now I'm calling on Congress to codify my most favored nation program into law. Now, the one thing I'm not sure it matters, because it's going to be very hard for somebody that comes along after me to say, let's raise drug prices by 700 or 800%. But John and Mike, if you don't mind, codify it anyway. They may do it. Codify it anyway. Thank you. Many Americans are also concerned that energy demand from AI data centers could unfairly drive up their electric utility bills. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that I have negotiated the new Ratepayer Protection Pledge. You know what that is? We're telling the major tech companies that they have the obligation to provide for their own power needs. They can build their own power plants as part of their factory, so that no one's prices will go up. And in many cases, prices of electricity will go down for the community, and very substantially down. This is a unique strategy never used in this country before. We have an old grid. It could never handle the kind of numbers, the amount of electricity that's needed. So I'm telling them they can build their own plant. They're going to produce their own electricity. It will ensure the company's ability to get electricity while at the same time lowering prices of electricity for you, and could be very substantial for all of you cities and towns. You're going to see some good things happen over the next number of years. Another pillar of the American dream that has been under attack is home ownership. With us tonight is Rachel Wiggins, a mom of two from Houston. She placed bids on 20 homes and lost all of those bids to gigantic investment firms that bypassed inspection, paid all cash, and turned those houses into rentals, stealing away her American dream. She was devastated. Stories like this are why last month I signed executive order to ban large Wall Street investment firms from buying up in the thousands single-family homes. And now I'm asking Congress to make that ban permanent, because homes for people, really, that's what we want. We want homes for people, not for corporations. Corporations are doing just fine. Rachel, thank you very much. Good luck with your home. You'll get one soon. We're also working to make it easier for Americans to save for retirement. And under this administration, we will always protect Social Security and Medicare. They are not protecting it for our seniors. We will always protect Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Since I took office, the typical 401k balance is up by at least $30,000. That's a lot of money. We have millions and millions of people, because the stock market has done so well, setting all those records. Your 401ks are way up. Yet half of all of working Americans still do not have access to a retirement plan with matching contributions from an employer. To remedy this gross disparity, I'm announcing that next year my administration will give these often forgotten American workers, great people, the people that built our country, access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year, as we ensure that all Americans can profit from a rising stock market. Let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information. They stood up for that. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Did Nancy Pelosi stand up if she's here? Doubt it. Pass the Stop Insider Trading Act without delay. I wasn't sure if anybody, even on this side, was going to applaud for that. I'm very impressed. Thank you. I'm very impressed. But when it comes to the corruption that is plundering, it's plundering America. There's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. Oh, we have all the information. And in actuality, the number is much higher than that. And California, Massachusetts, Maine, and many other states are even worse. This is the kind of corruption that shreds the fabric of a nation, and we are working on it like you wouldn't believe. So tonight, although started 4 months ago, I am officially announcing the war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President, J.D. Vance. We'll get it done. And if we're able to find enough of that fraud, we will actually have a balanced budget overnight. It'll go very quickly. That's the kind of money you're talking about. We'll balance our budget. The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception. Importing these cultures through unrestricted immigration and open borders brings those problems right here to the USA. And it is the American people who pay the price in higher medical bills, car insurance rates, rent, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, crime. We will take care of this problem. We're going to take care of this problem. We are not playing games. Delilah. Delilah Colvin was only 5 years old in June 2024 when a 18-wheel tractor trailer plowed into her stopped car traveling at 60 miles an hour or more. The driver was an illegal alien let in by Joe Biden and given a commercial driver's license by open borders politicians in California. Doctors said Delilah would never be able to walk or talk, have a good life. She wouldn't even be able to eat again. But against all odds, she is now in the first grade learning to walk. And she's here this evening with her dad, Marcus, a fantastic man. Delilah, please, you are a great inspiration. Please stand up. Thank you, Delilah. Many, if not most, illegal aliens do not speak English and cannot read even the most basic road signs as to direction, speed, danger, or location. That's why tonight I'm calling on Congress to pass what we will call the Delilah Law, barring any state from granting commercial driver's licenses to illegal aliens. And yesterday, as you probably saw at the White House, I hosted a ceremony with Americans who lost their treasured loved ones to the scourge of illegal immigration. People came into our country, how we allowed this to happen with our open borders. These are the angel moms and families that for decades our government betrayed and our media totally ignored. It was terrible. Hard to believe, actually. In 2023, a 16-year-old high school cheerleader named Elizabeth Medina was supposed to perform in her town's Christmas parade, but she never arrived. Her mother, Jacqueline, went home to look for her, and she found her lying dead in a bathtub, bleeding profusely after being stabbed 25 times. Elizabeth's killer was a previously arrested illegal alien who had broken in and brutally extinguished the brightest light in her family's life, violently and viciously. Her heartbroken mother is in the gallery to remind everyone in this chamber exactly why we are deporting illegal alien criminals to our country at record numbers, and we're getting them the hell out of here fast. We don't want them. Thank you very much, Jacqueline. Thank you. We can never forget that many in this room not only allowed the border invasion to happen before I got involved, but indeed they would do it all over again if they ever had the chance. If they ever got elected, they would open up those borders to some of the worst criminals anywhere in the world. The only thing standing between Americans and a wide open border right now is President Donald J. Trump and our great Republican patriots in Congress. Thank you. Thank you. As we speak, Democrats in this chamber have cut off all funding for the Department of Homeland Security. It's all cut off. It's all cut off. They have instituted another Democrat shutdown, the first one costing us 2 points on GDP. 2 points we lost on GDP, which probably made them quite happy, actually. Now they have closed the agency responsible for protecting Americans from terrorists and murderers. Tonight, I'm demanding the full and immediate restoration of all funding for the border security, Homeland Security of the United States, and also for helping people clean up their snow. We have no money because of the Democrats, and it would be nice. We'd love to give you a hand at cleaning it up, but you gave no money. Nobody's getting paid. It's a shame. So you have to think about it. We have, in case you didn't know, a pretty large snowstorm out there. One of the great things about the State of the Union is how it gives Americans the chance to see clearly what their representatives really believe. So tonight, I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act. To stop illegal aliens and others who are unpermitted persons from voting in our sacred American elections. That cheating is rampant in our elections. It's rampant. It's very simple. All voters must show voter ID. All voters must show proof of citizenship in order to vote. And no more crooked mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. None. And this should be an easy one. And by the way, it's polling at 89%, including Democrats, 89%. And even the new communist mayor of New York City, I think he's a nice guy, actually. Speak to him a lot. Bad policy, but nice guy. Just said they want people to shovel snow. They got hit hard. Wants them to shovel snow, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a Social Security card. Yet they don't want identification for the greatest privilege of them all, voting in America. No, it's no good. No good. Both Republicans and Democrats overwhelmingly agree on the policy that we just enunciated. And Congress should unite and enact this common sense, country-saving legislation right now, and it should be before anything else happens. And the reason they don't want to do it, why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason. They make up all excuses. They say it's racist. They come up with things you almost say, what imagination they have. They want to cheat. They have cheated. And their policy is so bad that the only way they can get elected is to cheat. And we're going to stop it. We have to stop it, John. And here is one more opportunity to show common sense in government. In the gallery tonight are Sage Blair and her mother, Michelle. In 2021, Sage was 14 when school officials in Virginia sought to socially transition her to a new gender, treating her as a boy and hiding it from her parents. Hard to believe, isn't it? Before long, a confused Sage ran away from home after she was found in a horrific situation in Maryland A left-wing judge refused to return Sage to her parents because they did not immediately state that their daughter was their son. Sage was thrown into an all-boys state home and suffered terribly for a long time. But today, all of that is behind them because Sage is a proud and wonderful young woman with a full-ride scholarship to Liberty University. Sage and Michelle, please stand up. And thank you for your great bravery. And who can believe that we're even speaking about things like this? 15 years ago, if somebody was up here and said that, they'd say, what's wrong with him? But now we have to say it because it's going on all over numerous states without even telling the parents. But surely we can all agree no state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. Who would believe that we're even talking about this? We must ban it, and we must ban it immediately. Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy. Amazing. Boy, oh boy. We're lucky we have a country. With people like this, Democrats are destroying our country, but we've stopped it just in the nick of time, didn't we? No one cares more about protecting America's youth than our wonderful First Lady, now a movie star. She's a movie star. Can you believe it? Who would have believed that? Over the past year, she has had an incredible impact championing AI legislation, advancing a landmark executive order on foster care, and helping secure $30 million to launch the Melania Trump Foster Youth to Independence Initiative. It's a tremendous, really a tremendous thing that happened and had a lot of bipartisan support. She gets much better bipartisan support than I do. I get none. She gets a lot. Someday you're going to have to tell me how you did that. And students and educators in every state have joined the First Lady's efforts in the presidential AI challenge, keeping America's next generation positioned to succeed and strongly succeed in the future. Tonight, we welcome two young people whose lives reflect the First Lady's impact, Sierra Burns and Everest Nevermont. Thank you both, and Melania, thank you. I know how hard you worked on it. Thank you very much. I'm very proud to say that during my time in office, both the first 4 years and in particular this last year, there has been a tremendous renewal in religion, faith, Christianity, and belief in God. Tremendous renewal. This is especially true among young people, and a big part of that had to do with my great friend, Charlie Kirk, a great guy, great man. So last year, Charlie was violently murdered by an assassin and martyred, really martyred for his beliefs. His wonderful wife, Erica, is with us tonight. Erica, please stand. Thank you, Erica. Been through a lot. In Charlie's memory, we must all come together to reaffirm that America is one nation under God, and we must totally reject political violence of any kind. We love religion, and we love bringing it back. And it's coming back at levels that nobody actually thought possible. It's really a beautiful thing to see. Above all, unleashing America's promise requires keeping our communities safe. We have made incredible strides, yet dangerous repeat offenders continue to be released by pro-crime Democrat politicians again and again. We are honored to be joined tonight by a woman who's been through hell, Anya Zarutska. In 2022, she and her beautiful daughter, so beautiful, what a beautiful young woman, Irina, fled war-torn Ukraine to live with relatives near Charlotte, North Carolina. And by the way, what's going on with Charlotte? Last summer, 23-year-old Irina was riding home on the train when a deranged monster who had been arrested over a dozen times and was released through no cash bail, stood up and viciously slashed a knife through her neck and body. No one will ever forget. There were people on that train. No one will ever forget the expression of terror on Irina's face as she looked up at her attacker in the last seconds of her life. She died instantly. She had escaped a brutal war only to be slain by a hardened criminal set free to kill in America, came in through open borders. Mrs. Zarutska, tonight I promise you we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Irina. How do you not stand? How do you not stand? I'm asking this Congress to pass tough legislation to ensure that violent and dangerous repeat offenders are put behind bars, and importantly, that they stay there. Yeah. Starting last summer, I deployed our National Guard and federal law enforcement to restore law and order to our most dangerous cities, including Memphis, Tennessee, big success, New Orleans, Louisiana, big success, and our nation's capital itself, Washington, D.C., where we have almost no crime anymore in Washington, D.C. How did that happen? In fact, crime in Washington is now at the lowest level ever recorded, and murders in D.C. this January were down close to 100% from a year ago. They don't like to hear that. One of the sick people, one of the brave service members who helped achieve this stunning turnaround was 20-year-old West Virginia Army National Guard Specialist Sarah Beckstrom. After a 4-month deployment, she voluntarily extended her service, and her rank was going to be lifted. She was doing so well. They were so proud of her. But the very next day, she was on patrol near the White House when she was ambushed and shot in the head by a terrorist monster from Afghanistan. Shouldn't have been in our country. And all because she wore the uniform of our nation, she was shot. He traveled here because he didn't like people wearing our uniform. He was sick and deranged, shouldn't have been in our country. Sarah Beckstrom died in order to defend our capital, and we are honored to be joined by her wonderful parents, Gary and Eva Lee. Your daughter was a true American patriot, and she will be greatly missed. She was a great person. I saw reports on her that never see anything like her. So sorry. Thank you very much. A great young lady. I saw reports that were like, perfect. She was perfect. Serving alongside Sarah that day was Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf. The terrorist shot Andrew in the head, and no one thought he could possibly make it. The two of them, Sarah and Andrew, both shot violently in the head. Neither was expected to make it. They weren't even given a chance, except his wonderful mother, named Melody, who I spoke to the same night. And she was so positive. The doctors thought that Andrew was gone. But his mother said, no, Mr. President, Andrew will be fine. He's going to make it. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, he was given almost no chance. She said, I have no doubt, sir, he's going to be okay. This was a conversation that I had with her that night, with her son laying helplessly in bed, blood all over. Everybody is praying, she said, sir, he will be okay. The doctors didn't understand what she was saying. And after looking at the results of the damage done, neither did I. She was so strong and conclusive that even Andrew's great father felt she didn't really understand the gravity of the situation. But she turned out to be right. Right, Melanie? She turned out to be right. Amazing, actually. I said, where does this woman come from? She's the most positive person I've ever met. With God's help, Andrew has battled back from the edge of death, and we're talking about the edge of death, on his way to a miraculous recovery. He's got a little work to do, but he's doing great. Nice to see you. He's a good-looking guy. Nice to see you. Thanks, Andrew. Thank you very much. So, Andrew, while you're up, now I'm going to ask a highly respected General James Seward to present Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf and the great family of Sarah Beckstrom with the award created by our late, great President George Washington himself. It's called the Purple Heart. We love you all. Love you. We're proudly restoring safety for Americans at home, and we are also restoring security for Americans abroad. Our country has never been stronger. In my first 10 months, I ended 8 wars, including Cambodia. Isn't it funny? Sick people. Cambodia and Thailand, Pakistan and India. Would have been a nuclear war. 35 million people, said the Prime Minister of Pakistan, would have died if it were not for my involvement. Kosovo and Serbia, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, Armenia and Azerbaijan, the Congo and Rwanda, and of course the war in Gaza, which proceeds at a very low level. It's just about there. And I want to thank Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner for your help. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jared. And I also want to thank the man they report to, Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Thank you, Marco. People like you. You know, Marco got 100% of the votes when he was in confirmation. I think our next one was about 54%. And some of the Democrats are now saying, I can't believe we approved that guy. And he said it's an honor that they feel that way, right, Marco? You have done a great job, great Secretary of State. I think he'll go down as the best ever. Under the ceasefire I negotiated, every single hostage, both living and dead, has been returned home. Can you believe that? Nobody thought it was possible. Nobody thought that was possible. Both living and dead. And those parents who had a dead son, their boy, they'd always tell me their boy, they wanted him as much as though he were living. It was an amazing period of time. And they came back, and when we got all of the living hostages back, and many, many before them, but I always said those last 20 are going to be very tough, but we got many, many more, hundreds. But I said those last 20 are going to be tough. We got them back. But we only got back 14 or 15 of the dead, of the 28. And believe it or not, Hamas worked along with Israel, and they dug and they dug and they dug. It's a tough thing to do, going through bodies all over, passing up 100 bodies sometimes for each one that they found. Tough job. And they finally got it back to 27. And then Steve and Jared, they got it back to 28. They found all 28. Nobody thought that was possible, but we did it. And I remember the family of the 28th. They were so grieved, but they were so happy as it's possible to be. They had their boy back. The mother said, "Sir, we have our boy back." What a period of time that was, but we got them all back. So thank you both very much. Great job. And we're working very hard to end the ninth war, the killing and slaughter between Russia and Ukraine, where 25,000 soldiers are dying each and every month. Think of that, 25,000 soldiers are dying a month. A war which would have never happened if I were president, would have never happened. As president, I will make peace wherever I can, but I will never hesitate to confront threats to America wherever we must. That's why in a breakthrough operation last June, The United States military obliterated Iran's nuclear weapons program with an attack on Iranian soil known as Operation Midnight Hammer. For decades, it had been the policy of the United States never to allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. Many decades. Since they seized control of that proud nation 47 years ago, the regime and its murderous proxies have spread nothing but terrorism and death and hate. They've killed and maimed thousands of American service members and hundreds of thousands and even millions of people with what's called roadside bombs. They were the kings of the roadside bomb. And we took out Soleimani. I did that during my first term. Had a huge impact. He was the father of the roadside bomb. And just over the last couple of months with the protests, they've killed at least, it looks like 32,000 protesters, 32,000 protesters in their own country. They shot them and hung them. We stopped them from hanging a lot of them with the threat of serious violence. But this is some terrible people. They've already developed missiles that can threaten Europe and our bases overseas, and they're working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America. After Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapons program, in particular nuclear weapons. Yet they continue, starting it all over. We wiped it out, and they want to start all over again, and are at this moment again pursuing their sinister ambitions. We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen. And no nation should ever doubt America's resolve. We have the most powerful military on earth. I rebuilt the military in my first term. We're going to continue to do so. Also, we just approved a $1 trillion budget. We have no choice. We have to be strong because hopefully we will seldom have to use this great power that we built together. It's really called Peace Through Strength, and it's been very, very effective. So thanks to Republicans in Congress who are investing that record number of dollars, have no choice, in the United States Armed Forces. Also creating a lot of jobs, but we're not even doing it for that reason. Because as I said, we have more jobs, more people working today than ever before in the history of our country. And NATO countries are friends and allies. They are. They're our friends and they're our allies. Have just agreed at my very strong request to pay 5% of GDP for military defense rather than the 2%, which they weren't paying. We were paying for almost all of them. Now they're paying 5 as opposed to not paying 3. And getting that 5% was something which everyone said would never be done, could not happen. We got it really easily with one meeting. And big difference between 2% that's not paid. We were paying the freight of many of them. Very few were paid up. now 5%, then they're paid. And everything we send over to Ukraine is sent through NATO, and they pay us in full. They pay us totally in full. Every branch of our armed forces is setting records for recruitment. This is so exciting. And every service member recently. And every service member recently received a warrior dividend of $1,776. You know, they put it on my desk. We got the money from tariffs and other things, a lot of money we have. We have much more money than people understand. Have to rebuild that program a little bit, but it won't take long. But we got the money, and it was $1,775, and they wanted my approval. And I said, what's the number? $1,775. I said, wait a minute, for one more dollar, we can have $1,776. It's going to. I said, we're going to figure that. I never asked anybody if we could afford it. One more dollar. I said, $1,776. And I said, that's good. And I'll tell you what, our military, that was 4 months ago, our military, I never see a person in the military that doesn't thank me for it. So we're honored to do it. They deserve it. And we call it 1776. It was great. And we love our military. We love our law enforcement. We love our firemen. You know, the firemen don't get mentioned enough. We love our firemen. We're also restoring American security and dominance in the Western Hemisphere, acting to secure our national interests and defend our country from violence, drugs, terrorism, and foreign interference. For years, large swaths of territory in our region, including large parts of Mexico, really large parts of Mexico, have been controlled by murderous drug cartels. That's why I designated these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and I declared illicit fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. And with our new military campaign, we have stopped record amounts of drugs coming into our country and virtually stopped it completely coming in by water or sea. You probably noticed that. We very seriously damaged their fishing industry also. Nobody wants to go fishing anymore. We've also taken down one of the most sinister cartel kingpins of all. You saw that yesterday. In January, elite American warriors carried out one of the most complex, spectacular feats of military competence and power in world history. No one's seen anything like it. Foreign leaders, I won't tell you who, called me and they said, very impressive, very impressive. They couldn't believe, they all watched, they saw what happened. This is a different fighting force that we had years ago when we fought to tie. You know, it's a great fighting force. I'm so proud of it. Look at Space Force. Space Force is my baby, because we did that. My baby is becoming so important. And America's armed forces overwhelmed all defenses and utterly defeated an enemy, good fighters, to end the reign of outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro and bring him to face American justice. And this was an absolutely colossal victory for the security of the United States, and it also opens up a bright new beginning for the people of Venezuela. We're working closely with the new president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, to unleash extraordinary economic gains for both of our countries and to bring new hope to those who have suffered so terribly. They really did suffer. With us tonight is Alejandro Gonzalez. She grew up in a tight-knit Venezuelan family and was especially close to her beloved uncle Enrique. But after Enrique ran for office and opposed Maduro, he was kidnapped by Maduro's security forces and thrown into the regime's really infamous prison in Caracas. Alejandro feared she would never see her uncle again. She feared for her own life also. But since the raid, we have worked with the new leadership, and they have ordered the closure of that vile prison and released hundreds of political prisoners already, with more to come. Alejandro, I'm pleased to inform you that not only has your uncle been released, but he is here tonight. We brought him over to celebrate his freedom with you in person. Enrique, please come down. Thank you, Enrique. Have a good time. Nice to have you back, Enrique. There were many heroes on that January raid to capture Maduro, really great heroes. It was very dangerous. They knew we were coming. They were all set. But the deeds of one warrior that night will live forever in the eternal chronicles of military valor. Chief Warrant Officer 5, Eric Slover, planned the mission and was the flight lead in the cockpit of the first helicopter, a big, beautiful, powerful helicopter. It was a massive Chinook carrying, as you can imagine, many, many American warfighters. Wearing the dog tags, his wife Amy had blessed with holy water before he left. She knew it was going to be a rough one. Eric steered the Chinook under the cover of night and descended swiftly upon Maduro's heavily protected military fortress. This was a major military installation, protected by thousands of soldiers and guarded by Russian and Chinese military technology. How did that work out? Not too good. While preparing to land, enemy machine guns fired from every angle, and Eric was hit very badly in the leg and hip, one bullet after another. He absorbed 4 agonizing shots, shredding his leg into numerous pieces. And yet, despite the fact that the use of his legs was vital to successful helicopter flight, legs are the most important part of flying a helicopter, to deliver the many commandos who would capture and detain Maduro was the only thing Eric was thinking about. Then, even as he was gushing blood, which was flowing back down the aisle, helicopter lands at a steep angle. The machine gun stood right in front of him. They were right in front of him, 2 machine gunners who escaped the wrath of the previous planes. Eric maneuvered his helicopter with all of those lives and souls to face the enemy and let his gunners eliminate the threat. Turned the helicopter around so the gunners could take care of business, saving the lives of his fellow warriors from what could have been a catastrophic crash deep in enemy territory. Only after safely landing the helicopter with all the warriors aboard in the exact right spot, which was vital to the mission, we probably would have had to maybe cancel the mission if that didn't happen. Eric told his co-pilot, also wounded, but not as gravely, to take over. I'm about ready to pass out. The success of the entire mission and the lives of his fellow warriors hinge on Eric's ability to take the searing pain. It was unbelievable what's happened to his legs of the bullets and keep on flying and landing, and people knew what was happening. Everybody in the back of the helicopter knew because they saw the blood pouring down the aisle. Chief Warrant Officer Slover is still recovering from his serious wounds, but I'm thrilled to say that he is here tonight with his wife, Amy. Eric and Amy, come on in. So we have a surprise for Eric and Amy. In recognition of Eric's actions above and beyond the call of duty, I would now like to ask General Jonathan Braga to present Chief Warrant Officer Slover with our nation's highest military award, the Congressional Medal of Honor. Well, thank you very much, Eric and Amy. Great to get to know you. I met with them and with a lot of their fellow warriors at Fort Bragg recently. You notice the name Fort Bragg, we have it back, we brought it back. We won the First World War with it, the Second World War with it, and then they decided to change the name. So we changed it back. Everybody wanted to change back too. And 10 of Eric's fellow warriors from that incredible night of victory will also be receiving medals at a private ceremony that will soon be held at the White House. And Eric will be there. Thank you, Eric. That's a big one. Tonight we've celebrated many truly extraordinary American patriots, but there is one last living legend to honor before we go. He is one more heroic American aviator, Navy fighter pilot. Royce Williams served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, flying more than 220 missions. In the skies over Korea in 1952, Royce was in the dogfight of a lifetime, legendary dogfight. Flying through blizzard conditions, his squadron was ambushed by 7 Soviet fighter planes. It was his first aerial combat of the war, and despite being massively outnumbered and outgunned, Royce led the takedown of 4 enemy jets and almost destroyed the others, vanquishing his adversaries while taking 263 bullets to his own plane and being seriously hurt. His story was secret for over 50 years. He didn't even want to tell his wife, but the legend grew and grew. But tonight, at 100 years old, this brave Navy captain is finally getting the recognition he deserves. He was a legend long before this evening. Royce, please stand up, and I will ask the First Lady of the United States to present Captain Royce Williams with his Congressional Medal of Honor. Thank you, Royce, and thank you, Eric. I've always wanted the Congressional Medal of Honor, but I was informed I'm not allowed to give it to myself, and I wouldn't know why I'd be taking it. But if they ever open up that law, I will be there with you someday. But you know, that's our highest honor, Congressional Medal of Honor, and that's a big thing, and it's an honor to be in the same room with you. Thank you both very much, Eric. Thank you. Thank you. 250 years is a long time in the life of a nation, but in another sense, it's really a mere moment in the eye of history. Two of the gentlemen we met in the gallery this evening took their first breaths 1 century ago, 100 years before that, on July 4th, 1826, the author of the Declaration of Independence, brilliant, Thomas Jefferson, drew his last breath. Just a single long human lifespan separates the giants who declared and won our independence from the heroes who stand among us tonight. Everything our nation has done, everything we have achieved, has been the work of those few great lifetimes. In those brief chapters, Americans built this nation from 13 humble colonies into the pinnacle of human civilization and human freedom, the strongest, wealthiest, most powerful, most successful nation in all of history. Americans ventured out across the daunting and dangerous continent. We carved paths through an unforgiving wilderness, settled a boundless frontier, and tamed the beautiful but very, very dangerous Wild West. From empty marshes and wide open plains, we raised up the world's greatest cities. Together, we mastered the world's mightiest industries and shattered history's monstrous tyrannies. And we liberated millions from the chains of fascism, communism, oppression, and terror. Americans lifted humanity into the skies on the wings of aluminum and steel. And then we launched mankind into the stars on rockets powered by sheer American will and unyielding American pride. We wired the globe with our ingenuity. We captivated the planet with American culture. And now we are pioneering the next great American breakthroughs that will change the entire world. All of this and so much more is the enduring legacy, unmatched glory of the hardworking patriots who built and defended this country and who still carry the hopes and freedoms on all of humanity's backs. For years, they were forgotten, betrayed, and cast aside. But that great betrayal is over, and they will never be forgotten again. Because when the world needs courage, daring, vision, and inspiration, it is still turning to America. And when God needs a nation to work his miracles, he knows exactly who to ask. There is no challenge Americans cannot overcome, no frontier too vast for us to conquer, no dream too bold for us to chase, no horizon too distant for us to claim. For our destiny is written by the hand of providence, and these first 250 years were just the beginning. From the rugged border towns of Texas to the heartland villages of Michigan, from the sun-kissed shores of Florida to the endless fields of the Dakotas, and from the historic streets of Philadelphia to right here in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., the golden age of America is upon us. The revolution that began in 1776 has not ended. It still continues because the flame of liberty and independence still burns in the heart of every American patriot. And our future will be bigger, better, brighter, bolder, and more glorious than ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
That was historic. I want to see if the Democrats had enough respect to stay in the room. Our left was showing no respect to the President of the United States. That's the speech we've needed, at least from my perspective. You saw a historic moment tonight. This was not a speech. This was a historic moment. He went through basically, essentially, what divides the country, the people that stand for the United States of America or those that don't. And he kept calling at the Democrats about how they don't even Joint Chiefs of Staff right there, how they wouldn't even stand in applause for some of the most basic. Look at the Democrats' empty seats. Many of them have already left with no respect for the president to leave the House. Tonight showed you the divide. It showed you the divide better than anything you'd see. And I think for the MAGA base, and I think for the Real America Voice audience, the War Room Posse, this is the speech we've been waiting for. This was as hard a throwdown as I've ever seen. This is a non-traditional State of the Union that needed to be said. It needed to be said while they were in the room. The president's now leaving. Senator Johnson. Let me bring in Brian Glenn as we watch the president work the crowd. Brian's at the White House. We can just do a small block with, I want to have the whole screen on the president. We can do that. Brian Glenn, your assessment, sir, you're there every day. You're very close to the president every day. Your sense of, I think, one of the greatest speeches President Trump has ever given.
I would agree. I would absolutely agree. I think he took a nice victory lap on all the economic accomplishments he has had in his first year. He reviewed and reminded the American people that he has made our country safer with the closure of the border and the U.S. policies that we now have in place in regards to immigration. He reminded the American people that it's a good thing to be proud of this country. It's a good thing to reward those who sacrificed everything for our freedom. And I love the Purple Heart awards that he had, the Congressional Medal of Honor that he awarded as well.
But Brian, you see this, but hang on, but you see it going around the country. This was not simply, yes, he went through his achievements, but a lot of presidents go through achievements. He sat there with the Democrats and he called them out. He said, the responsibility of government is to protect the American citizens, not illegal aliens. And then he paused and said, they won't even stand and applaud for that. Yes, you're correct. He went through a litany of his accomplishments, which have been historic. But to me, the historical moment of this, he called out the Democrats, Omar, and those people to their face and dared them to challenge him, sir.
And I'd like to, really give a thumbs up on whoever's punching that show and giving us those camera shots, because I was telling to myself, keep the camera on Omar. Show the level of disrespect she has for this country and for the president. This was a highlight reel for every Republican that is running in the midterms. This is what the Democratic Party looks like. They don't love this country. They disrespect the president, and it was on display tonight.
Hang on right there, Brian. Don't go anywhere. Let me go to Steve Gruber. You're in Statutory Hall where they're going to come. Statutory Hall, they're going to come out right there to have Gruber. Okay, fine. That's okay. Is John Solomon available?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's go to John Solomon. Is this what you wanted tonight, sir?
Well, it's what I expected. It's what the reporting showed was going to happen. First, incredible repudiation of the insanity of the Democratic Party's current agenda. How many times did he say, you should be ashamed of yourself? He looked right at them when they couldn't stand and salute American excellence or extraordinary American heroism. He challenged them to say,
Solomon, hang over a second. You've been in this town for decades. Has that ever happened in the State of the Union?
Never.
Where he sat there on multiple occasions and said, you should be ashamed of yourself, right? For not standing for the Ukrainian woman, for the illegal aliens, for the murders, for the angel moms. Have you ever seen called out to their face on national TV? You should be ashamed of yourself, sir.
No, it was the most epic repudiation in an official setting I've ever seen in my 40 years in this town. And yet it was mixed with this unbelievable celebration of everyday, ordinary Americans doing extraordinary things. The pilots, the National Guardsmen, the young girl recovering from an almost unthinkable injury caused by an illegal alien driver. So he weaved through this optimism, a catalog of his successes, an incredible and powerful and repeated repudiation with no response from the Democrats, worth mentioning. And then he laid 6 or 7, mammoth ideas for the next 7 months. $1,000 new matching contribution from the federal government for your 401k. Delilah's Law, a ban on truck drivers getting licenses if they're illegal aliens or can't speak English. J.D. Vance on a fraud task force that he said could get us to a balanced budget. And the idea that tariffs would transition to an income-free tax America. There's a bunch more. These are huge ideas, more magnanimous than the ones he proposed last year on the 2024 campaign. So he repudiates, he celebrates, he initiates ideas, and all the Democrats are going to be able to answer with is their petty protests and their pandering and their, quite frankly, idealist agenda. They don't have ideas to match what Donald Trump just put on the agenda tonight.
John Solomon, brilliant as always in your 40 years of seeing this. We'll see you back on. Where do people get you on social media? We're going to see you. You're going to kick off the War Room tomorrow.
We got something special.
You've got a lot of breaking news. You got a lot of breaking news there. The things that are coming up. Where do people get you?
We'll just tell everybody. JustTheNews.com in a little bit. We're about to drop a story. We have Fani Willis's internal memos on her coordination with Joe Biden, the Biden Justice Department, the January 6th committee, things that were kept from Congress, things that were kept from all prior cases. We won them in a lawsuit. We'll break that in the morning. So look forward to being on with you and the posse in the morning, buddy.
Great assessment. Thanks for staying up with us, John. Fantastic. Let's go to Grant Stinchfield in our Dallas studio. Grant, I think this is the type of speech you were looking for, sir.
It 100% was, Steve. I'll tell you, everything that everybody just summed up was 100% true. But I want to tell you another part of this that we cannot forget. I consider myself a tough guy, Steve. I was an NRA guy. I still am, but worked for NRA. I like to think of myself as a flamethrower. Steve, I welled up, I'll bet you 3 times during this speech, between the little girl who was hit by an illegal alien, between Irina Zarutska's parents there, and the Democrats don't stand. You get this combination of an emotional feeling of what Americans are going through at the hands of Democrat violence. Nearly everything they summed up, well, President Trump summed up, was Democrat violence, whether it was illegal aliens, the attack on our National Guard in D.C., you name it. And the Democrats sat there. You are right, Steve. That moment where he called them out, I want you to stand. Do you believe in putting American citizens first? And they sat there. Steve, look, I'm a New Yorker. I told you I curse. I've told you this before. I apologize. I was cursing at the TV. These dirty mother scratchers, only I didn't use scratchers. How dare they sit there when people are dying at the hands of their policies? What an amazing speech. I just got a text from an 80-year-old friend of mine that said, I am so proud to be an American. That was the speech we needed tonight. Man, oh man, my buddy Harry Ballou sums it up right there.
Harry said it. Grant, you're absolutely correct. And with President Trump, to me, the power was the symbolism with the speech, but then he would turn, because this has never been done. And the exact thing with Ukraine, said, how can you not stand for that? He says, look at them. They won't stand for it. He called them out to their face about exactly what they've done in this country. This is my point. There's no debating here. There's no policy coming together. There's no discussion. You're either American patriot or you're a traitor. And the Democratic Party is a bunch of radical Marxists that sat there tonight on their hands when the President of the United States went through a litany of their crimes, sir.
Look, half of them sat for the Olympic gold medal team, the hockey team. I mean, you would think no matter where you stand on politics, you would applaud the greatness of American athletics on a world stage. And Steve, what about Rashida Tlaib? Did you see the pin she was wearing? F ice. These people are disgusting, Steve. Disgusting. I don't know what else. I don't know else how to describe it. They are disgusting human beings. And quite frankly, I have no tolerance for them.
This is the speech we needed to fire up the War Room posse, the Rev audience, the MAGA base. If everyone, look, and Trump hasn't done some things. He's not perfect. But, man, he laid it out about if you're going to save this country. And he said it. If I wasn't here and these things didn't get done, the country was over. And he's 1,000% right, sir.
1,000%. 1,000% right. And I'm with you. I knew that we would come and say this was a great speech. Because it always is from President Trump. I honestly didn't know it would be this great. I mean, this speech was fabulous, Steve. I think I'm with you. This was the best speech I've ever heard from President Trump. And I think a lot of it was because of tone. The tone he took here was perfect.
Yes. No prisoners. It was I actually said, I think this elevates above a speech because of all the elements he brought in the awards and all the different people. This was a historic moment. As John Solomon said, in 40 years of doing this every year, Solomon's never seen this. I've never seen this. Grant, what's your social media? You're going to be back on tomorrow, and you're going to be obviously a key member of this of the Texas rally. President Trump's coming to Texas, and hey, the folks here are going to be pretty fired up, I can tell you. Grant, where do people go to get you on social media?
I guarantee it. Stinchfield 1776 on just about every social media platform, and it's always great working with you, Steve.
Thank you, brother. Fantastic. Let me go back. I want to go back to Brian Glenn. Then I'm going to go to Bo Davidson down in our Palm Beach. We still have Brian Glenn, or is he punch out? Brian, you still there?
Yep.
Brian, closing
I'm here, Steve.
You travel with the president. You're going to be going to Texas with him. You're close to that White House. Were you expecting, and I want to give a huge shout out to the White House speech writing team. Vince Haley, I know he's his domestic policy counsel today.
He's got many other responsibilities, but the whole team, Stephen Miller, Vince Haley, and the rest, that was a historic. It raised the bar above a speech to a historic moment. Now, that was President Trump doing his special magic, but the core basis of the speech was also magnificent, sir.
Yeah, the core messaging on this speech was awesome, Steve, but I agree with you. It's calling out the Democrats because people are at home right now that were watching that speech were saying the very things that we're saying. They're not even standing up. And guess what the president did? He called them out in front of everybody, shamed them, if you will. And I think it was an amazing night for this country. I think it's an amazing night for President Trump. He took a victory lap on his agenda so far, what he's been able to accomplish, but he called out the Democrats to their face and revealed to the American people how much they dislike this country. I'm proud to be American. I'm proud to be here at the White House tonight with you, Steve, and they hate this country, and he's shown America that tonight.
Hopefully, you're going to be with the president. I know you're Texan, the big Texas rally on Friday, and people after the speech are going to be ready for it. We got Maha in Austin on Thursday with Bobby Kennedy.
that would be an example for the world. And this year, as we celebrate 250 years since America declared our independence from tyranny, I can think of no better place to speak to you as we reflect on the current state of our union. Tonight, as we watched our nation's lawmakers gather for a joint session of Congress, we did not hear the truth from our president. So let's speak plainly and honestly. And let me ask you, the American people watching at home, 3 questions. Is the president working to make life more affordable for you and your family? Is the president working to keep Americans safe both at home and abroad? Is the president working for you? As I campaigned for governor last year, I traveled to every corner of Virginia, and I heard the same pressing concern everywhere. Costs are too high in housing, healthcare, energy, and childcare. And I know these same conversations are being had all across this country. Because since this president took office last year, his reckless trade policies have forced American families to pay more than $1,700 each in tariff costs. Small businesses have suffered, farmers have suffered, some losing entire markets. Everyday Americans are paying the price. And even though the Supreme Court struck these tariffs down 4 days ago, the damage to us, the American people, has already been done. Meanwhile, the president is planning for new tariffs, another massive tax hike on you and your family. And Republicans in Congress, they remain unwilling to assert their constitutional authority to stop him. They're making your life harder. They're making your life more expensive. They're even making it more difficult to see a doctor. Rural health clinics in Virginia and across the country are already closing their doors thanks to the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill, championed by the president and Republicans in Congress. And tonight, the president celebrated this law, the one threatening rural hospitals, stripping healthcare from millions of Americans and driving up costs in energy and housing, all while cutting food programs for hungry kids. But here in Virginia, I am working with our state legislature to lower costs and make the Commonwealth more affordable. And it's not just me. Democrats across the country are laser focused on affordability in our nation's capital and in state capitals and communities across America. In the most innovative and exceptional nation in the history of the world, Americans deserve to know that their leaders are focused on addressing the problems that keep them up at night. Problems that dictate where you live, whether you can afford to start a business or whether you have to skip a prescription in order to buy groceries. So I'll ask again, is the president working to make life more affordable for you and your family? We all know the answer is no. I grew up in a house of service. My mother was a nurse and my father was a career law enforcement officer. I began my career by following in my father's footsteps as a federal agent working money laundering and narcotics cases. I worked side by side with local and state police to keep our community safe and to uphold and enforce the law. Law enforcement officers across the country know that it is a unique responsibility to do the serious work of investigating crimes, comforting victims, and making arrests. It's about building trust, and that requires an abiding sense of duty and commitment to community. And yet, our president has sent poorly trained federal agents into our cities, where they have arrested and detained American citizens and people who aspire to be Americans. And they have done it without a warrant. They have ripped nursing mothers away from their babies. They have sent children, a little boy in a blue bunny hat, children to far off detention centers. And they have killed American citizens in our streets. And they have done it all with their faces masked from accountability. Every minute spent sowing fear is a minute not spent investigating murders, crimes against children, or the criminals defrauding seniors of their life savings. Our president told us tonight that we are safer because these agents arrest mothers and detain children. Think about that. Our broken immigration system is something to be fixed, not an excuse for unaccountable agents to terrorize our communities. After working in law enforcement, I continued my career of service as a CIA officer, working undercover to protect the United States and our allies from global threats, terrorism, nuclear weapons, and the aggression of adversarial nations around the globe. But as the president spoke of his perceived successes tonight, he continues to cede economic power and technological strength to Russia, bow down to China, bow down to a Russian dictator, and make plans for war with Iran. Here's the truth. Over the last year, through DOGE, mass firings, and the appointment of deeply unserious people to our nation's most serious positions, our president has endangered the long and storied history of the United States of America being a force for good. So I'll ask again, is the president working to keep Americans safe, both at home and abroad? We all know the answer is no. In his speech tonight, the president did what he always does. He lied, he scapegoated, and he distracted. And he offered no real solutions to our nation's pressing challenges, so many of which he is actively making worse. He tries to divide us. He tries to enrage us, to pit us against one another, neighbor against neighbor. And sometimes he succeeds. And so you have to ask, who benefits from his rhetoric, his policies, his actions, the short list of laws he's pushed through this Republican Congress? Somebody must be benefiting. He's enriching himself, his family, his friends. The scale of the corruption is unprecedented. There's the cover-up of the Epstein files, the crypto scams, cozying up to foreign princes for airplanes and billionaires for ballrooms, putting his name and face on buildings all over our nation's capital. This is not what our founders envisioned, not by a long shot. So I'll ask again, is the president working for you? We all know the answer is no. But here's the special thing about America. On our 250th anniversary, we know better than any nation what is possible when ordinary citizens, like those who once dreamed right here in this room, reject the unacceptable and demand more of their government. We see it in the determination of students organizing school walkouts all across the country, whose voices are becoming so powerful that the governor of Texas seeks to silence them. We see it in the bravery of Americans in Minnesota standing up for their communities, from peacefully protesting in sub-zero temperatures to carpooling children to school so that their immigrant parents are not ripped away from them in the parking lot. As a mother of 3 school-aged daughters, I am inspired by their bravery, but I am sickened that it is necessary. And Americans across the country are taking action. They are going to the ballot box to reject this chaos. With their votes, they are writing a new story, a more hopeful story. In November, I won my election by 15 points. And we won 13 new seats in our state legislature. Because voters decided they wanted something different. Our campaign earned votes from Democrats, Republicans, independents, and everyone in between, because they knew as citizens they could demand more, that they could vote for what they believe matters, and that they didn't need to be constrained by a party or political affiliation. This is happening across the country. New Jersey elected Mikey Sherrill as governor in a double-digit victory. Democrats flipped state legislative seats in places like Georgia, Iowa, Mississippi, and Texas. The list goes on and on. Ordinary Americans are stepping up to run in the spirit of our forefathers. They are running to demand more and to do more for their neighbors and communities. I know the story well. I first ran for office in 2018 alongside dozens of other Democrats who did the seemingly impossible, flipping 41 seats in Congress. In my case, I was the first Democrat elected in 50 years, swinging our district 17 points. Those who are stepping up now to run will win in November because Americans, you at home, know you can demand more and that we are working to lower costs. We are working to keep our communities and our country safe, and we are working for you. In his farewell address, George Washington warned us about the possibility of, quote, cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men rising to power. But he also encouraged us, all Americans, to unite in a common cause, to move this nation forward. That is our charge once more, and that is what we are seeing across the country. It is deeply American and patriotic to do so, and it is how we ensure that the state of our union remains strong, not just this year, but for the next 250 years as well, because we, the people, have the power to make change, the power to stand up for what is right, the power to demand more of our nation. May God bless the Commonwealth of Virginia, and may God bless the United States of America.
All right. Well, that was Governor Abigail Spanberger from Virginia giving her rebuttal speech for the Democrats to President Trump's real State of the Union, brought to you here on Real America's Voice in our continued coverage that we've been doing now for several hours straight. Some amazing correspondence that we have out there that we certainly want to get to for rapid reaction. The first one I would like to go to is Steve Gruber. Steve, Abigail Spanberger opened her rebuttal with three questions. Is the president working to make life more affordable? I think that is unequivocally yes. Is he working to keep Americans safe? I think unequivocally yes. And the third question, is the president working for you? I would also say yes. Steve, your thoughts on those three questions that Abigail is asking Americans in her rebuttal?
Yeah.
Steve, are you able to hear me? Maybe he might not be able to hear me.
I can hear you now. There it is. I've got a very special guest with me, Tim Burchett from the great state of Tennessee, dressed in his Carhartt. So I missed the question. I apologize. But Congressman, there was a lot of conversation there about American history and where we're going from here. How'd you take the speech? It looks like we have a path forward.
Yeah, 2 hours, had to pack a lot in because he'd had a lot of success and stuff. That was very telling when they introduced Americans that have been literally slaughtered by terrorists that have survived, or a family member that's left to grieve them, and the Democrats don't stand to cheer those people. There's a real clear divide in this country. I felt like the Democrats, more than they hate Trump, I think they hate this country and they hate success. You know, somebody first time been able to buy a house, and you can't cheer for that. You know, we lead the world in energy production, gas and natural gas and oil. Murder has almost stopped in some of our most violent towns. Anybody else who'd been in the White House, the left, the lamestream media would be cheering every night. But no, they're not going to give Trump any credit for that. And to me, it just shows a clear divide in our country. But we are successful regardless of what the naysayers say.
Let me tell you something that you probably missed, talking about people that hate this country. Rashida Tlaib, one of your colleagues from Michigan, when the room was chanting USA, she was chanting KKK during that part of the speech. Probably not surprising, but your reaction?
Not surprised one bit. Again, people that hate our country, they really have no business being in the United States Congress. It's a disgrace to our country. It's a disgrace to the people that have fought and died for this country. some of them that fought in this for this country were in that room. And I think they play that card a little bit too much. That is, and of course, the KKK was a creation of the Democrats, so I think they probably need to go back and read their history a little bit.
Lay claim to it. Something that I know that you've been focused on is stopping the insider trading for members of Congress. He talked about that tonight, said Nancy Pelosi probably didn't stand up for it. But it is an important issue. When people see people go to Congress making $174,000, 5 years later they're worth $25 million, well, then that's a concern. How important is that?
It's very important. That's why people don't trust Congress. We've got to get a bill, though, that eliminates stock trading and makes people, eliminates their huge portfolios that they've achieved up here, as you said. And it is insider trading. It's crooked. Both parties are engaged in it. But, they killed Luna's and my bill that would stop it and make you get rid of it, of your portfolio, and put it into a mutual fund. And so, they're going to pass some wishy-washy thing. It's going to go to the Senate, and they'll pass something different. And then all the millionaires in Congress will go off to Kenny Bunkport and toast themselves to some Dom Perignon, I'm sure.
As you would say, some of these members of Congress are as crooked as a dog's leg. I've heard you say that once or twice.
Yes, they are crooked as a dog's leg. And, look, we're in meetings that are secret and that the public's not allowed. We have access to lobbyists. We have access to officials. There's talks of contracts. There's talks of warfare. And you got a lot of people who own stock in missile defense companies. And I'm not suicidal when I tell you that. If you find me tomorrow with 12 bullet holes in the back of my head, I did not kill myself.
You leave here, you've got a great sense of humor. Are you optimistic looking forward?
I am, or I wouldn't be here. But I'll tell you this, if you got a congressman that says they love Washington, D.C., being in Washington, D.C., you need to get yourself another dadgum congressman.
Congressman, greatly appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. It's been a pleasure.
Always good to see you. All right, there you have it. The one, the only Congressman Tim Burchett of Eastern Tennessee. He's a straight shooter, and the insider trading is something that's important to him. It's something that the president touched on, because if you can't trust Congress, and who does, then we have a lot of work to do, don't we?
We do, Steve. I'm a Tennessean, so that's my kind of guy right there. I love Tim. Steve, before we let you go, any other observations? You mentioned that Rashida Tlaib was chanting KKK while the others were chanting USA. Any other observations you want to provide to give to our viewers from your vantage point?
Oh, and by the way, Bo, if you want to see that, it's up on my X account right now, Steve Gruber on X. We put it up because I couldn't believe it. My team sent it to me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but you can see her saying it plain as day over to Ilhan Omar saying KKK. Omar staring straight ahead like a deer in the headlights. Here's what I take away from this. This was an optimistic conversation with the American people. He talked about peace through strength. He talked about what it's going to take to make affordability better for families in America. He talked about lowering healthcare costs and grocery costs. I mean, he hit on all the themes that we have to see here, but let's just be clear about this. You can't fix all of the problems from the last 40 years in a year. There's work to be done. He knows that. But I would caution the Democrats, the ones taking victory laps in February, thinking they've already won the midterms, not so fast. This economy is warming up. Things are getting better. Mortgage rates are below 6%. Inflation is at 2.4%. I think we are going to have a very good summer financially. I think when people see those refund checks start hitting their bank accounts, are going to say, hey, that one big beautiful bill really is beautiful. And so those are my observations. It was a positive speech about where we came from, and more importantly, where we're going.
Yeah, Steve, I think you said it earlier very, very well, that it's a long road until November. And so the victory lap should not be taken too soon, particularly with all these different policies that he laid out tonight, some of which I think a lot of us were surprised about. But it does take a long time, of course, to rectify what happened over the last 4 years. Brian Glenn, I want to go to you at the White House because you cover the president so often and so well. Brian, what I thought, something I thought was very effective about this speech, even if you want to call it a speech, it was really a moment, it was an experience, was that for every policy that he talked about, he had an example through a guest. There were probably 15 guests there, if that's probably on the short side, that every policy he talked about, whether it was open borders, violent crime, transgenderism, he had someone there to back up what he was saying in terms of that particular policy and why it works. I've never really seen someone do that, or at least as effectively as that. What did you take away from that? Because that really stood out to me.
Yeah, it did, Bo. And that's called providing facts to what he's saying, providing proof of what he's talking about. And that's what President Trump did tonight. And as far as the Democrat response, the only thing I can see at this point that they did right was put some American flags behind her as she delivered, I guess, 15 minutes of I don't know whose speech she listened to, because definitely President Trump is working for the American people, and definitely this country is way safer than it was under Joe Biden. But as far as President Trump tonight, that was a combination of a rally speech, a policy review, and quite frankly, staring the Democrat Party in the face and delivering the facts and holding them accountable for letting the American people down. Bo, tonight was epic. I think it was one of the best moments that President Trump has had in his 2 terms, quite frankly.
Yeah, without a doubt, Brian, I think you're 100% right. And Ben Bergquam, I want to go to you because you're there at the site of the 10 people protesting, which I guess included your good friend Adam Schiff. A couple of things I want to get from you is, one, what was the on-the-ground experience like there with those who were protesting, including the ever-silent pencil neck Adam Schiff? But also, you spent some time with the Angel families recently in D.C. For the moment with President Trump as a guest of theirs, not as a guest of the White House. Talk about the moment that you saw in tonight's speech where those Angel families were acknowledged, and the fact that many Democrats simply can't stand for it.
Yeah, I mean, that was the contrast. You could see it. I mean, we've heard it over and over and over. The divided America, the divided states of America. You had this idiotic event put on by MoveOn.org and the Midas Touch, run by Joy Ann Reid and the rest of them. That just show their hatred for America. And you compare that to President Trump, as you said, every single example Brian just said was such a good, or maybe that was you, Bo, such a good point. Every single point he made, he had an example, a living testimony of a witness to that. And so that's really the difference that we're up against. And it was inspiring. You compare that to just the clearly out of touch speech by the Democrat rebuttal. I mean, she said all the right things. She said all the nice things, but there was no authenticity there. President Trump, it was just pure authenticity. And that's what you get with him. And that's why people love him. And this, I think Steve Bannon said it best. This is the one the American people have been waiting for. Now, hopefully we can get the other Republicans in the House and the Senate to actually back it up and make some of these changes permanent, not just executive orders, but through legislation. That's the key. We have to make these things permanent.
You're 100% right about that, Ben. Neil McCabe, you have covered D.C. for so long now, and you understand the inner workings of it. The one moment that I was suggesting with Steve Bannon earlier that really stood out to me was them not standing up for someone who had been, gone through transgender, a transition, basically a transition without the parental notice. And he looked at those Democrats and said, these people are crazy. And to me, that was the most stark. I mean, in addition to just saying, I can't believe they won't even stand up. Some of them didn't stand up for the U.S. hockey team. But that was just such a contrast between that and looking at Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar yelling expletives and things. It was the difference in night and day. What did you take away from that particular moment?
No, Bo, it's incredible. I wish you could see my legal pad upstairs in the studio when I was watching the speech. I literally wrote that moment down. These people are crazy. And I love the way he called them out. It was, he really was, it was really a blended speech, like other people have said. He was excellent on the teleprompter, but he was also, well, what's that?
I apologize, Neil. Go ahead. Keep
I
going
thought he
on.
was
I apologize.
excellent. No, that's fine. I just, I thought that moment was really important. As a Coast Guard veteran, I was thrilled to see that rescue swimmer get the Legion of Merit. And I just thought it was overwhelming, not really a speech, but a performance. And I think it's important going into the midterms to remember that Senate races have their own dynamic. A lot of times it's statewide issues and personalities, but congressional seats, those House seats, are tied to the president, for or against. And so if these House members, these House Republicans, if they want to get reelected and they want to bring in more Republicans, they've got to be tied to the president. He has given them the map. This is the roadmap to victory. And he was talking directly to these Republican congressmen and saying, get in line. Let's pull on the same rope in the same direction and let's get this thing done. And the other thing, Bo, is I noticed when he was talking about the SAVE Act, he said, let's get this past John, right? A reference to John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, which reminded me of how Reagan would turn to Tip O'Neill and say, hey, Tip, let's get this thing passed. The difference, of course, was that Reagan was talking to a Democrat. And I thought it was interesting that that President Trump actually had to talk to the Republican leader of the Senate as if he was opposing him. And, you would think that John Thune wouldn't need to be convinced or encouraged to get the SAVE Act passed. But obviously, it's the Republican leadership in the Senate that's blocking it, and we'll see if it gets done. This should give it a good push, but we'll see, Bo.
Well, you got a good point, Neil. I mean, it was as much of a repudiation of Democrats as it was a push, a swift kick in the behind to Republicans who are not on board. And I think Senator Ron Johnson, who was on earlier, said it best. People have got to get out and vote. You can't sit on your butts and do nothing, or else this is all for naught. This is what would stymie this second presidential term, is by not getting out there and voting. So the Senate's got a lot of work to do. The House has got a lot of work to do. And voters at home, you have a lot of work to do, or you can't get this agenda passed. This train that's running cannot be stopped, but it can be stopped worse if nobody gets out there and votes. So, Neil, thank you so much for that excellent analysis. I do want to talk about a product that we have a special occasion for tonight, for President Trump's State of the Union address. We're celebrating here with the official release of a brand new MAGA tumbler, and it's only $10 for a limited time, and you can get yours by heading to TrumpTumbler.com. Now, today is the official release for this brand new red MAGA Trump tumbler, and for only $10 for just a limited time for this promotion tonight. The red Trump tumbler is a stylish and functional daily beverage tumbler that is forged with food-safe stainless steel that makes it super light and durable at the same time. Don't miss your chance to claim your very own limited edition MAGA red Trump tumbler today for just $10. Now, you're not going to find a deal like this anywhere else because it was created solely for today's State of the Union, the real State of the Union. So don't wait for them to sell out. Head on over to TrumpTumbler.com and secure your red Trump tumblers today. And now we want to go to Damon of the Studio 6B team. Damon, if you're there, hope you can hear me. I want to make a comment, too, about a wonderful thing President Trump said, because I'm a musical guy, and I know you guys are, too. What a difference a president makes. That reminds me of the old Dinah Washington song, What a Difference a Day Made. And indeed, what a difference a president makes. Damon, I want to get your thoughts on that, because he did lay out a clear contrast between what he's been able to do in 13 months versus what Biden did in 4. Your thoughts?
Hey, both. Thanks for having us back on. I mean, just my thoughts overall. It's just a once-in-a-generation leader who's built for moments like this. I just thought it was as soaring a speech about American exceptionalism as we've heard from the president. He's given a bunch of them. I can remember his speech out at Mount Rushmore. I think it was the 4th of July some years ago that I thought was brilliant. But I mean, this was just brilliant. And I know I just talk like a regular guy, so I think I speak for most people who just were around, sitting around their kitchen table watching it. It just seemed like the perfect balance of positivity, but yet he went openly after the Democrats in spots. He pointed out things. He made Ilhan Omar the face of possibly the Democrat Party. The midterms, they gave him so much material. I said if the Republican media people are not already making some commercials for the midterms, they're not paying attention, because Trump really, he went after them in all the right ways, all the right times. He was seemingly having fun. He really seems like he enjoyed it. I mean, you just cannot watch him and think, no matter what you think, You don't even have to agree with all of it. Even as a conservative, there were some things you can say, well, I don't know about that. But the man loves this country. He loves this country. He loves serving the people. He wants what's best for the people. It was a soaring speech. The last two and a half, 3 minutes of that speech were as good as I've ever heard. I was just saying to the social media stream here, I said last night on the show, I want to hear things about, are we one nation under God? Are we strengthening families? Are we preserving liberty? I mean, he hit on all of it in the last 2 minutes. I mean, that's as good as a close as you will ever hear from a State of the Union. So I just applaud the president tonight. I thought he hit it out of the park. I know it was a little over 2 hours. I mean, it seemed like about 20 minutes. I just did not want it to end. And I think, to your point, the distinction he drew tonight between the Republicans, and I mean, there's a lot of us who have a problem with the Republicans, that they got to get on their horse and do something. But man, the distinction tonight was just something to be seen. I just thought he was fabulous.
I agree with you. And, I had been kind of thinking this thing is going to go on and on. We know Trump likes to talk. We know he likes to take victory laps. But you're right. And this is kudos to the speechwriters, Ross Worthington and Vince Haley, who put this speech together. I would love to have been there in the room, Damon, when they said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to say America's first job is to protect our citizens. And when I say that, no one's going to stand up. And I'm going to look at them and go, you should be ashamed of yourselves, because he knew instinctively they can't help themselves. They're not going to stand up. And that's as clear of a contrast as you're going to get. If we can't all agree, not just about, hey, great gold medal for the men's hockey team. You don't want to stand up for that, you're an idiot. But if you can't even say that our first constitutional duty as Congress members is to protect our citizens, and you sit for that, something is incredibly wrong with you. And why in the world would you vote for someone like that, Damon?
Switching again, stand by.
It was quite a moment in real time. Sat there and looked at them too, and he shook his head and he really made it focused on the fact that they weren't standing. And in real time, when we were on the stream, I said, I hope he says it again. I wanted him to say something like, maybe you guys didn't hear me because you're sitting there still and you're not standing up, because how could you not stand for this, right? That's what common sense people are thinking. I wanted him to say it again. Maybe you didn't hear me. I said the first job of the American president is to take care of American citizens, not illegal immigrants. You guys didn't stand. Maybe you didn't hear me. He didn't do that, right. But you get the point. I mean, it was just brilliant on the president's, and he did it a couple times when they didn't stand for the girl in North Carolina on the train. He looked at them because the camera didn't show it. He looked at them and said, I can't believe you didn't stand for it. So good for him for pointing it out again. Again, they did this last year. Their approval dropped after it. I hope it happens again. I hope more people than the 36 million who watched last year watched again tonight, because the president, it was just an excellent speech. But to me, it's more about the guy than the speech. The speech was great, but he's just built for these moments, for these speeches, and he absolutely delivered tonight for me.
Yeah, Damon, I counted at least 4 times, just by my count, that the Democrats did not stand. And by the way, I want to make it clear to our audience, these are not times that weren't stood for, that the Democrats didn't stand just because it was a policy that Trump, that they don't like. Didn't stand for the men's hockey team. Not all of them didn't stand. As you just said, he said the role of government is to protect American citizens first, did not stand. Irina Zarutska, as you just aptly mentioned, Damon, who was killed in North Carolina by a released felon in North Carolina. And then Enrique Marquez, the Venezuelan prisoner that was released. They didn't stand for that either. These are things that should be celebrated by every single American. These are not policy divisions. These are American issues that everybody should get behind, and yet they don't. And for all the people that think Trump is crazy and he flies off the cuff, he seemed the eye of the hurricane, Damon. He seemed like cool as a cucumber. And meanwhile, you have Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar uttering expletives and saying KKK as everyone else chants USA, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and again, I just think he was brilliant in the way, I felt like the Democrats sat there. Of course, Swazi's falling asleep, that doofus. But I mean, they sat there all night, and he tried to, they tried to show restraint, but then Omar just lost it, obviously. She just couldn't. Oh. And then Tlaib joined in, and then, of course, Pelosi's there chewing on her gums, looking like she's halfway down the bottle. I mean, it's just, the distinction he drew. He knew when to go to open combat. The times he chose to go to open combat with them tonight on the floor and draw attention to it, and he got some help from the camera work, and they got some good reaction shots, I just thought was brilliant. But I think you're right. If you can't stand for the men's hockey team who went there and won a medal for the country, he didn't go win it. They didn't go win it for the Republicans or for the Democrats or for the Trump White House. They won it for America. They won it for all of America, all of us. We remember 1980, and now here we are 46 years later, and they do it again. Obviously not exactly the same because they were such underdogs in 1980. But if you can't stand for that moment, if you can't stand for this poor girl's mother and some of the other things that Trump did so well tonight to point out some of the grief and agony that American citizens have endured because of Biden's open borders, I mean, it really just it was so politically smart on the president's on his part tonight. I just thought it was just as good as it could be. Slick Rick's here with me still. Slick, give me your final thoughts on the night before we throw it back to Bo. What are your parting thoughts here on the night?
It was an epic night. Like I said, it was the greatest speech I've ever seen. Hands down, best speech of all time. He was incredible the way he hit on all the points. I love the way he tied everything at the end. And, maybe we got to focus less on the Democrats. We know that they're, like Trump said, they're sick people, right? Quote unquote. Perfect statement. And that is exactly what they are. They cannot celebrate the Americans winning the gold medal. The United States men's hockey team is there. They should have took their hats off and jumped up and down when they came in. That's the kind of people they are. But you know what? Focus on the positive. Trump is moving the country in the right direction. It's going to take a little time, but the little middle America will see the change. They will see the economy shift, I believe, before the end of the year. I love the speech, Big D, epic. I think a lot of folks in the chat were saying they were tearing up at spots. The emotions it's amazing the emotions that come out of the Republicans when Trump speaks versus the disdain and the pushback from the Democrats. That was very prominent tonight. But again, moving on to the positive, epic speech. Congratulations, Mr. President. You did us very proud tonight.
Yeah, absolutely incredible positive American speech tonight, Bo. I think that's what I'll take away from it. I'll take the last 2 minutes. I mean, I'm going to find it and read it again, I think, on the show. I mean, the last 2 minutes are as good as you'll ever hear. And by the way, just while we have a second, I think the Democrat response falls short, not just because it's the Democrat response. Do I think that? Obviously, I thought she was lifeless. I thought the little crowd there that had to try to give her some energy. I don't think it was well written. I don't think the subject matter, I don't think it lands and communicates with people on a night like tonight. I think the repeated going back to the question of, so is the president working hard for you? I think we all know the answer. No, I think most people think the answer is yes. We may not be there yet, but I think common sense Americans sitting around the table think that maybe that he is working for them and he's trying to make things better and things safer. So I don't think that works on a night like tonight. Just like I didn't think on our side, Katie Britt worked in response to Biden's disastrous State of the Union, the last one he gave. Right. I thought her response was not nearly good enough on a night where we needed to be sharp and hammer him and the party for what he said up there. I don't think their response tonight was good enough on a night. President Trump takes the night by a mile, and I think most of the American people will see that when it's polled on how they think he did tonight.
Yeah, knowing what we know now, that probably should have been Marco Rubio giving that speech at the time. But whoever was responsible for putting Abigail Spanberger up there, not just her as the speaker, the rebuttal speaker, but whoever wrote that speech gets an F. I mean, if the level of energy and optimism and patriotism was here under Donald Trump, boy, did that drop off immediately when Abigail Spanberger walked out to the stage of 10 people of fake supporters. So I thought that was atrocious. You hit the nail on the head with that, Damon. I think we do want to go to David Zier, who is in the America First warehouse, and I think he's got a special guest with him who's going to provide some thoughts on tonight as well. David?
Hi, good evening, Bo. We meet all kinds of people coming through the America First warehouse here. One of them is Greg Hack. He's running in the 3rd District for Congress. Now, in fairness, he's running against the Trump-endorsed opponent, Mike LaPetrie, in a primary. But this is important, right? Suozzi was sleeping. That's the 3rd District Democrat representative. Why is it important for you to take that seat?
Why is it important?
What'd you think of it?
We need a lot more than 5 minutes to talk about that. But
yeah,
Suozzi sleeping is the perfect metaphor.
Think it was an act?
I don't know whether it was or not, but it's the perfect metaphor for the Democratic Party today.
Now, you're a lawyer. You specialize in corporate fraud, other fraud, getting into Somali fraud, right? Bessent said, he's also the acting IRS commissioner. He's going to go after the Somali fraud. Do you have confidence anything will come out of it?
Oh, I think so. I think absolutely. I think we've only touched on the tip of the iceberg.
All right. Insider trading, that's your specialty, right? In Congress, do you think it should be banned? And what do you think? Were the Democrats on the hot seat with that, or are Republicans in on it too?
Yeah, well, it's actually fun. Actually, both parties are responsible for it. Both parties
But it got a
participate.
standing ovation from both sides.
But it
right?
did. It did. They didn't know whether to stand up or sit down. It was obvious. But you know, you have a guy like Tom Suozzi who goes in and he multiplies his net worth 450% in just 6 years. I mean, who do you think that attracts to run?
Okay, one key takeaway from tonight, 10 seconds.
It's America's back.
All right, you heard it here. Greg Hack, well, back to you, Bo.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Damon, I think you had a final thought. We do have about 2 minutes left. Any just final bookend you want to put on this for us?
Well, I was just going to say that I think Spanberger, I've said this all week, that I thought it was an interesting choice that they picked her because given how she has started her governorship in Virginia, she ran as some moderate. She got elected there, but she's just a total fraud. It's just total deception. She's gone in there and she's trying to tax everything under the sun, yet she gets up there tonight and she talks about affordability. So she's just the perfect snapshot of, I think, the party and what they're going to try to pull off in the midterms, which I think is total deception. They're going to act like moderates, like she did, hope that they get elected, and then of course they're off the reservation, off the rails, like we know that they normally are. And I just think her choice, the irony of it, I think, was kind of lost on some people, but not on me. I just think she's a total fraud. The way she's governed is, I think, what they're going to try to do in the midterms as well. But overall, this is President Trump's night, just unbelievable.
Yeah, and given the vision that Donald Trump laid out tonight, I honestly think the Democrats are going to be on their heels. The visual that was laid out, you think about Kennedy and Nixon in the past, the visual that was laid out between Tlaib and Ilhan Omar versus how Trump was completely stark. And unfortunately, they cannot erase that. Television is live. It is gold. It is forever. Well, as we close out our special State of the Union coverage, we want to thank all of our sponsors and especially Birch Gold. See how easy it is to diversify your IRA or 401k with gold. Get a free info kit from Birch Gold right now by texting the word America to the number 989890. Always remember that number. That's America, the word America, 989890. Well, we thank you for inviting us into your homes and into your laptops.
Straight out of scripture, like Ephesians 5:11-13 in the Kitbay Hakodesh, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. But all things that are exposed are made manifest by the light. Press release. Press release. Press release. Hebrews News. Conversation, love the energy you're bringing with the song, drop another brand under the hay, whatever concept I hate, whatever LLC. When the first news sounds like it's putting on a mission, it's shining like new collaborative efforts with love, ink in the head, Bruce News brand and set BruceNews.com. Press release, press release. Hebrews News. Context, independence, and engineer made K-Brain, E-Doing, the bar, together, you straight fire. It's all about this going popular viewpoint and terminology from the original source. Press release, press release. Hebrews News. For those in authority over us, as you said, ask y'all for wisdom, protection, and guidance. Like 1 till a D2, 1 to earn 200 supplications, plans, intercessions, and please giving for kings, and all in high positions, so we can lead peaceful lives and all godliness. Expose lawlessness. Expose the lawlessness.
Not obeying instructions.
Leave to death. The wages of sin is death.
Straight from the Kid Fame Hot Codist. Romans 6:23.
Then the Greek NT, that's Yah for those in authority over us. As he said, ask Yah for wisdom, protection, and
For the wages of sin is death, where the gift of God is eternal life. Through Yahushua HaMashiach, our foundation. That's the classic line we've all heard proclaimed. Paul uses military work imagery here. Reverse to a soldier's day of rations. Unpreserved in sin is like enlisting under its master. And the paycheck you earn for that labor,
that's a physical expiration back. Spiritual separation from Yah,
the source of all life, leading to eternal laws that not redeemed. Yet that goes back to the garden. In the day that you eat thereof, you shall surely die.
We're seeing both physical mortality and spiritual death.
Where Africa without the verse doesn't end in Dory.
The contrast is massive. Sin earns death, but eternal life is a free gift.
Ties right into the Torah's the bar. Sin brings curse, death. With obedience, life through our 7 revised contracts.